X.com, the everything app. It all happens on X. I stumbled upon a trivia question today that I got right. Took me a second. It took me a second. The video was only like 60 seconds long. And the lady was like, ask all these different people. And, it's like, then it's like the last person they ask is going to have the right answer.
Yeah.
And as I was going through it, I was like, oh man, I got to get this before it gets to that point. So I was going to ask you and see if maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, but I thought it'd be a fun one to start off with. So the question is, what is the largest by population city in America? So not North America, but just in the United States that does not have one of the four major sports teams. So NHL, NBA, NFL.
That doesn't have a single one of those.
MLB doesn't have a single one of those. So what's the city with the most people that doesn't have at least one of the four? 60 seconds on the clock. I'm just kidding.
I mean, well, no, that wouldn't count. I mean, my initial guess was Salt Lake City, but they have an NHL team, so
and the Jazz, they have two.
And the Jazz, duh.
So San Jose came into my head really quickly, but then I remember the Sharks.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's got to be. Is it Texas or California? Is it one of those?
It is one of those two states.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with.
You think of a city. It's crazy. You think of a city, and then you like, oh wait, no, there's that team. Like, it pops in your head.
Yeah, I mean,
you can do it. I believe in you.
I mean, I think it's Texas.
It is Texas,
and my guess would be Austin. Then.
It is Austin. Austin does not have. Austin has made it into that. I think it's top 10. It might be like 11, just on the outside of the top 10 population.
Yeah,
but no,
it's grown massively over the last massively, but it was still always a pretty big city.
Yeah,
so
no NHL, no NBA, no NFL, no MLB, and
all UT.
There's so much talk about expansion right now in all the different leagues. MLB, is like everyone's circling Nashville. MLB has been circling Nashville. The NBA is talking expansion. And Austin, it feels like it's prime, like it's just primed, ready for something like that with the growth and with the fact that you have like a young college town vibe too. I mean, it's SEC football now with the UT. It's such a football town
for sure. No, I mean they could definitely make it work. That it would be wild because it's already a jam-packed city, and that would make it even more so. But and 3 Texas teams wouldn't be the greatest.
I'm so pro. I mean, well, like in the NBA, you already have San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. So if you had an NBA team, you have 4 NBA teams in Texas.
Right.
If you had an NFL team, you'd get that number 3. In baseball, you have
baseball
Houston
would be the third too.
And Rangers,
you got the Astros and the Rangers.
Yeah, because there's none in San Antonio. It's prime for it. I think we may have had this discussion before about like where you would expand, and I've always said with the NFL,
I've always said Salt Lake City, an NFL team there would be cool, but I don't think it would do very well.
Out west, you need to kind of fill the gap out west.
Yeah.
My problem with the NFL expansion is you have to really realistically to make it fair. You'd have to have 8 teams, and that's way too many teams, right? You'd have to have each division would have to add a team.
They would probably go away from the division method.
And I think that's something that I think NBA can get away with that. NBA can just be 2 conferences, right? Like like who really thinks about, the NBA, what is it? I don't even know what is it the Central now? And it's like the Atlantic. There's like all these,
it's like the Metropolitan.
Yeah. It's like, who cares about that? Like, I don't need nobody, cares. What I mean? Like the Bucks Bulls rivalry, man.
Well, rivalries don't really matter as much anymore in the NBA anyways, because it's all about just like who's at the top and who's at the bottom. Mm-hmm. Like there's no real, I'm not saying that it's devoid of rivalries, but it certainly doesn't. The rivalries don't matter.
I'm pretty sure in the NBA, if you win your division, it has no bearing on the ranking. Like you could, I think I don't know if it's mathematically possible, but I think if you because you'd have to now with the playing games of the 10 seed. I was going to say maybe you could actually win your division and not even make the playoffs.
Not make the playoffs. That would be wild.
But I think Yeah, the NFL is just too tough. Like I would strongly suggest against expansion in all leagues, except for maybe the MLB. I think the MLB is one where you could get away with more teams because I think as far as tanking in the MLB goes,
162, it's still, yeah.
well, it's about to me the MLB. It's like it's about the vibes of the city and like the local markets. Now it sucks, like you see what happened with the A's and moving out of Oakland and things like that. But like with the NBA, there's just not enough talent. I mean, the bottom 12, 13 teams are just awful. And in the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback, there is one team in every division already that you could argue like they just don't. I don't know if they have a quarterback and they can't play. Like you're going to add more teams and more bad quarterback play in the NFL. I would have said 30 years ago the NFL, sure, because it was more about your whole roster and your quarterback was still an important piece, but you could win championships without an elite quarterback play. It's just not possible now. You need above average.
Spread it real thin. I mean, the quarterback play would have to get better, or we'd have a watered down product essentially.
For sure. And
out there in the league.
Speaking of quarterback play, I can't believe my guy Nussie went so late in the 7th round. We got to talk.
I know. I made a note about that actually on here too, because yeah, that was surprising that he fell that far in a weak quarterback class. So very interesting stuff there. But yeah, it's way too early, but at the same time, probably not to start talking about the 2026 NFL Power Rankings. Free agency's done for the most part, of course. The NFL draft is done. So here we go. We're going to give our preseason, very, very preseason NFL Power Rankings coming up next. All right. Well, we had a fun draft show. Had several friends come and join and react in real time to the NFL draft. It was a fun first round, despite it not having a plethora of big names like we've had in some previous years. This year was overall considered a relatively thin draft class. And I think we saw that, Mark, throughout the draft too. A lot of teams that had a lot of picks, the Pittsburgh Steelers being one of them, it was difficult to find suitors that were willing to part with next year's picks to move up or down. Pittsburgh, certainly had 12 picks and a great opportunity to maybe offload a couple of those and get capital for next year, but people just didn't want to part with it. Next year does seem to be a stacked class, and I think that's part of people figuring out what NIL is doing to the draft classes and trying to predict when students are going to leave and when they're going to stay for an extra year. I think ultimately it will even out at some point, right? Like it's just about catching up. I think right now we're in the height of the era where the older athletes that would have gone into the draft have an opportunity now to make some extra cash. But as we get maybe next year and like the year after that, Mark, I think then everything will start to like follow up where even though older prospects are going to stay, there's still other prospects from the older classes before them that are now ready to come into the pool and make big draft classes. But I do think this year was kind of the apex of that right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is the final kind of convergence of a lot of the COVID year players, you know what I mean? And also this new world we live in where people like, Oregon's quarterback, Dante Moore, like saying like, nope, I'm going to just take $10 million to stay in college. Like it is a whole new landscape. I will say my overall impression of the draft, especially like after round 3, was it felt weird that every single person I trusted, from the McShays to the Kuipers to everyone on TV, Daniel Jeremiah, all these people comes in like, well, it's just weak. It's just weak from here on out. Like I'd be so offended if I was that guy in the 4th round. I'm like, okay, fuck you. Like,
yeah, right.
It's just it's a weak draft. But overall,
there's going to be 4th through 7th round picks that
Yeah.
make rosters and end up being really, really good
Really
players.
good players.
Like, it
Absolutely.
happens
My
every
my
year.
my
Yeah.
my biggest thing, I think this was the first year in a long time that I felt very convinced that maybe I've looked at the draft wrong for a long time. And I think it's just like that Bears fan, um, the woe is me, like, and you have to always win the off season. It feels like that's like for so much of my career, it's like you're not going to win during the season, so you got to like win the off season to try to like hope to win during the season. I've always been a proponent of like just take the best available, take the best available, take the best available. But I also think, a lot of this stems from so much of the Bears talk being like, your need is the edge, and you didn't come away with an edge in the first 3 rounds. Like, what is your problem? Like, that is a huge need. And so I've had so much discourse and debate with people online, and then like watching people I trust talk about it back and forth, back and forth. And I think my big takeaway is at some point in time, you have to look at the draft as the draft can't solve all your needs. The draft is your foundation. It's constantly saying, when you look at your house, like we both, live in homes, own homes. It's like you have to say to yourself, okay, now is the time we talk to our banker and we talk to like the roofer and like the foundation guy, and you say, what are the core like things we need to constantly be building for? And I think maybe it's just because for the first time in forever, the Bears have an offensive coach with Ben Johnson. I was
Yeah, well,
I
there's
was
stability,
I was
in terms of
so
the approach.
yeah, I was so like, they're gonna draft an edge. They're gonna draft. It's such a need. They didn't address it in free agency. They didn't trade for an edge. Like, they're gonna take an edge, take the best available edge, like just fill that need and like best of it, But when you look at it, you say, okay, well, if the foundation of my team, a lot of people are hating on the Roush, like the third round tight end from Stanford for the Bears. Like, well, if the foundation of your team is now an offensive team with a head coach who's only in his second year, still trying to build his foundation, right? You look at your roof, you look at your foundation, like those two things you need to make sure are stable on your house. If he's saying to the GM, you're like, I want to run 13 personnel. I want to have depth at the tight end. I want to have another weapon this guy, he's a blocker who's way different from our first round tight end last year, who's more like a big body wide receiver. Then I would rather at that point in time say, okay, I'm going to trust that, as opposed to just like, well, your need is this. You have to take need. Well,
Yeah.
maybe the need is constantly looking at what is the foundation of our football team. And we value being really good at tight end maybe more than being really good or filling a hole, especially if the player is not there in that position at the end.
Well,
And
that's just it. I mean, you touched on it. They may have very well every time had the intention of maybe grabbing an edge, but the guy they liked went 4 picks early, and they weren't gonna settle for maybe a prospect they felt was lower on their board just to fill that need. So sometimes it's the draft just comes to you that way.
because it's funny, because like you said, for the Steelers, it's interesting. It's like, okay, you have all these picks. You'd like to turn some of those picks into picks next year, because drafting 12 players, especially on a team that made a playoff run, it's not a Jets roster, right? It's not a Titans
You
roster.
don't have the roster spots to fill 12.
Yeah.
Like, there's not gonna be room for 12 guys. Like,
Yeah, you say to yourself, okay, so maybe we need to be more aggressive, right? Like, maybe that's the game plan, to just trade up and go use as many picks you can to just turn those 12 into 4 picks or whatever it might be. I think for different teams, like, you start looking around what some teams did later in the draft. Like, I think like a team like Dallas, the more I sit on their draft, that edge rusher they took in the first round from Central Florida, UCF, it's like, wait a minute, maybe that actually is a really solid pick. Your biggest need, you got a star player in Caleb Downs. And then if you look at Dallas's D-line, if you're not paying attention offhand, you think right away like, oh, well, yeah, you got rid of Micah Parsons, so I guess it's a need of the D-line. They have a great D-line. Remember, they got Kenny Clark. They got Quentin Williams. Like, they have a real, like, this kid you can look at that pick and say, we don't need him to come in and be like a star right away. We can say, hey, this is a guy with total development, and we're not going to get him the next time we pick, so let's just pick him now. the one thing I love about the draft when you start to give it time, the more and more I like everyone's draft, right? I can convince myself of things like the Browns. I thought, hey, we made a ton of good picks. And now in 3 years from now, we'll have the real answers to this draft. This show should really be analyzing the 2023 NFL draft.
Right. Maybe that's something we'll do later. We've done it in the past where we look like 4 years after the fact. Maybe we'll do that again this year. But
is there anything specific you want to point out that stands out to you from certain things? I have a couple of players, but I turn over to you as far as guys or names or things like that.
I mean, there wasn't like one particular pick that was. I mean, obviously, I think the Ty Simpson pick took us all by surprise. I mean, that one was really interesting and a bit shocking. I thought overall the run on tight ends in the second and third round was wild. I wasn't expecting that. I knew that there was good tight end depth. I just didn't realize that it was going to be that high. So I don't know the exact numbers, but there was, I think, like a dozen tight ends that went in those rounds. And so that was really interesting. I think that pushed people into certain areas where maybe they felt that they could get that, sleeper tight end in the middle rounds or on day 3 that they couldn't get anymore. And more globally, I think for teams, I kind of made a note here because we're going to talk about our, who's our top 10 going into the NFL season. And there are 3 teams that aren't on the top 10 power rankings, but they're the 3 teams I think actually had the best drafts. And that would be the Raiders, I thought, had the best overall draft.
Great draft. I agree.
It was incredible. I thought they addressed so much of what they needed, and it didn't seem like they made like many like panic moves. The Browns, you mentioned them. I thought they had a really, really good draft. And then the Giants. I thought the Giants did a really good job in this draft too. So those are 3 teams that aren't going to be anywhere in the top 10. They're probably not even sniffing the top 20. But those are 3 teams I really felt had strong drafts, and those are 3 teams that needed strong drafts. So
I thought the Jets as well. I'd throw them in there, and it's funny because these are a lot of bad teams, but a lot of bad teams have either high picks or they have, like, the Jets multiple picks, Giants multiple picks in the first round. So when you look at cumulatively, you're like, this makes sense. I do want to touch on the quarterbacks. That's really my note on it. Like, I couldn't believe by the end of the 4th round, I was like, we're really like Nussmeier is still there. And then to go 7th round and end up with the Chiefs, that was just one of those where I'm like maybe there was just so much smoke screen. I think one of the things I took away, maybe it was McShay said it in one of these many podcasts I listened to, saying like the quarterback market now purely is 1st round or 3rd round. Like you're not going to see guys going in the 2nd round like ever anymore, because it's like if he's a 2nd rounder, take him in the 1st. Like if you believe in him, he's a 2nd, then he's a 1st rounder, take him in the 1st. And I think that's like the Ty Simpson conversation, right? And then if you feel like as though they're not a 1st rounder, but you like them a lot, then you take them in the 3rd round. And then it's like, oh, if it's the 6th or 7th round, because you don't see guys going like 4th, 5th, and it's like 6th or 7th round where it's like, oh, that guy's still on the board. Well, no one's going to hammer me for taking him in the 6th or 7th round. So it's kind of like you have like 1st round, 3rd round, or like 6th or 7th round is where your quarterbacks are kind of going. And maybe
I'm in the camp that unless you have 4 like young quarterbacks with one of them being a star, like you should draft a quarterback every year. I truly think that.
I agree. I think like the Bears shouldn't, like, you maybe pick something like a guy up, like, and I'm with you. If you have
I think like a 7th round pick or a UDFA,
yes,
one of those guys for sure. I think you gotta keep trying, because
bring someone into camp.
Caleb Williams' career could be over.
Yes. Well,
you just never know.
And bring someone into camp, right? Like, I mean, I guess it's because I would think that what you want to talk
when you find your career backup.
Yes, because I was going to bring up Drew Aller to you. I didn't hate the pick, but I also would say I was a little surprised. But it's kind of fun because he's a Penn State guy, he's a Pennsylvania guy, Pittsburgh. He's big, strong, big arm. He's very Will Howard. They're very, very similar type quarterbacks. And I do think this at least gives McCarthy and that offense. Okay, it's a little pressure on Howard, right?
Yeah, that's
It's
good.
it's a flyer. You're taking a flyer on Drew Aller where there's no expectations. And then you can say, listen, if Aaron Rodgers truly never shows up, you at least have multiple young guys where you feel like, all right, this season we can throw two different guys out there at some point in time, and may the best man win, or we'll maybe watch them both play at some point in time. I listen, if the Jets went with Klubnik, so they must had a high grade on him. So like, okay, good for Cade Klubnik. He'll probably, I guarantee we'll see Cade Klubnik play a game this year. I guarantee we'll see Carson Beck. Start a game this year with Arizona. They were taken in rounds where I'm like, okay. And I would argue that depending on Patrick Mahomes' availability, who do you think is going to win the second job, Nussmeier or Justin Fields? I have a feeling, you know what I mean? Like,
I think it'll be Justin. It'll be Justin.
Okay.
But
yeah, like,
I mean, I'm upset that the league let Nussmeier go to the Chiefs, because at the very least, he can work with it. And so, it gives him time to heal up. I mean, clearly people were worried about the medicals on him, which is why he fell. But yeah, I was surprised that Drew Aller was the pick in the third round. I'm not there. There's definitely like mixed opinions out there of, like Alex Kozora. We've had him on the show. He does great work. He's of the mindset that you either take a quarterback in the first round or you don't take a quarterback at all.
Okay.
And I don't agree with that.
Like then, is his point like you only stick a quarterback if you believe in him that much?
You either get your guy or you don't, and the fact that not many quarterbacks beyond round 2 pan out, and that's true. I mean, it's true. But situation matters. With the Steelers where they're at, I mean, if they have Aaron Rodgers, they have him for another year. They're going to have to find a solution quick. And now next year's not a guarantee. They're probably not going to be picking in the top 10. And so, what are you going to do? So I like taking a flyer, even if that's a higher round than people would have liked, on a guy that at least has tools that you can work with.
Mm-hmm.
And you hope for the best and see if Mike McCarthy can unlock something with the guy, or at least, like you said, push Will Howard, and they get a really good competition out of it, and they find their quarterback through that, competition. And I would argue perfect.
I would argue Pittsburgh is a great example of why you should prioritize drafting a young person who can become a good backup quarterback. I think Mason Rudolph won a bunch of games in spot starts for the Steelers, right? Like and you say to yourself as an organization, like, you think about how valuable that is. I think it's a valuable position having. I would disagree with Alex. I get his principle, but I also think to myself, the backup quarterback is still a valuable position that's worth a third or fourth round pick if it's the right team in the right setting. And I think Pittsburgh's the perfect example of the right team in the right setting, because it's like, we don't have a guarantee. And the one person we feel like is going to be our starting quarterback is going to be the oldest starting quarterback in the league. So we have to protect ourselves in case an injury does come up. That's interesting. Listen, draft's always fun. It's always fun to look back. I do think we will see Klubnik, Carson Beck, obviously Fernando. I think Fernando will play at some point in time this year.
Yeah,
I feel pretty confident those three we will see as rookies play football.
We're real quick. Well, not to divert away from the quarterback talk too much, but what did you make of the Steelers embarrassing snafu in the first round? Because we didn't even
calling
catch
on the phone. I know.
We didn't even catch it in real time. I'm sure they were talking about it, but we didn't have the audio up, throughout. So we didn't get to react to it. But man, I thought that was a super embarrassing moment for them, a really bad process.
Calling a guy before it's locked in that you have a chance to get him, right?
I think that's silly. How you don't even know.
I don't know what the
trades
rules
happen
are on
in the last minutes all the time. I just, that's so bizarre to me that they they wouldn't be working the phones to at least, and that's why I felt like once that pick got away from them, they then had to sit there and like reevaluate real quick and say, okay, well, do we feel good enough about our number 2 guy here, or do we try and trade down? I think they probably
Yeah.
did try to trade down, and they couldn't find any suitors. But I don't know. I mean, you're hosting the draft. You call a prospect that you think you're going to get while another team's on the clock, and then the Eagles jump you
Well,
and
yeah,
take that guy.
your in-state rival. It's
That's
fun. It's a funny one.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah,
But
I think it's one of those. I don't remember that ever happening before, and so
I don't
like,
either. Yeah.
so the draft always brings you stuff like that. I also would just say, if I'm the NFL, I don't know if they broke any rules. Who knows what rules?
I don't think so. Other teams do it apparently, and the Steelers. We were looking back, like they've done it in years past too.
Oh, where
I
they've
just don't
called
I don't know
guys
why you would
before,
do it.
but this is maybe the first time where it's like that guy actually got picked by someone
Yeah,
else. Like,
right. It's possible. Yeah.
yeah, or at least it was caught on camera in that in that realm. I would just say, like, I you know. I don't know what my process would be, but I ain't calling no one until I'm officially locked in. Like, that's my
Here's
the
what that
pick is in.
trade. I totally agree, and here's what that trade says to me too: is that Pittsburgh didn't do their due diligence to call Dallas and say, "Hey, if somebody's trying to move up here,
Let us know.
let us know, and we'll try and match," because Dallas certainly would have let them know because it was the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
They would have much rather traded with Pittsburgh
Yep.
than the Philadelphia Eagles for that
That's a
draft
good
pick.
analysis, Dan. I didn't think about that, but you're right.
So
It probably calls out all of the different scenarios. It looks like maybe the Steelers got caught sleeping there.
yeah. I just think that they didn't do their due diligence. All right, let's talk about like who we think, from a standpoint of free agency, the draft, and just the
Coaching
team as a
changes.
whole. Coaching changes.
Yeah.
Who we think the top 10 teams are. You just want to go back and forth and say like
Yeah.
10 and 10, and we'll
Mhm.
won't spend like a crazy amount of time because we'll have
No.
obviously a lot more time to talk about these. But
I will say,
good exercise.
in my thinking on this, the majority of the offseason is done. I mean, the things that
Yeah.
will change this power ranking, I can't think of much except for like a dramatic injury. And there is still time for like a couple big trades. That always seems to happen where there's a big trade, kind of in the weeks prior to the season. I think the AJ Brown trade will still happen. But even then, I would say for the most part, the bulk of the offseason is done. Obviously, we'll do more power rankings as we get closer, but I'll be interested. I'm making a note to say to myself, what is going to make me change these rankings? So I'll get a start at number 10. I have the Chargers at number 10.
Oh, me too. Nice.
Look at it. You and I always, this will be funny because we do think alike in a lot of ways. It's bad for our show, but it's good for our friendship in the sense that I think for me, it's all about Mike McDaniel. I also think it's about getting healthy. I can't imagine they suffer the same dramatic injuries they did last year. You just have to imagine they'll have better injury luck. I also like what they did in free agency in the draft, and I think Mike McDaniel's the biggest improvement. I think that the fact that Harbaugh is willing to bring someone like him in shows you that Harbaugh is willing to hear a new and different ideas. And it's a different type of offense, right? Like Harbaugh likes to run smash mouth football. Mike McDaniel loves to run the football. He comes from that Kyle Shanahan tree. So maybe Harbaugh's going to open up his run scheme a little bit. And I'll be very interested to see what that's like. And so I'm going to go with Chargers at 10.
They also drafted 4 offensive linemen. And I was like, okay,
they're
that's
done.
it right there. Like they're like, we are creating, and probably all 4 of these guys are going to make the roster. Like, who knows? But yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going to be hard to envision them suffering the same setbacks from an injury standpoint that they did a year ago. But if they do, they at least have more reinforcements here. And I really liked their first round pick in Mesidor. That pass rush did need some help. And I think he's a really good prospect. And then they take Slaughter in the second round, who's a really good guard. I think he'll probably start for them this year. And then you've got your tackles that hopefully will stay healthy and be good. But yeah, lots of drafts there for the offensive line, and I loved that. On 9, I have the Chiefs. Mainly because I just can't envision not putting the Chiefs in a top 10 despite their finish last year. But I really did like their draft. I mean, they hammered defense in this one, and they really needed to in those early rounds. That is a unit on this team that did struggle as compared to years past. And then they took a lot of flyers late on offense. So I liked that. But Mansour Delane and Peter Woods, the first 2 picks, those are going to be starters right out of the gate. And so if we think that they're decent prospects, which all consensus points to that currently, we obviously don't know how they're going to pan out. But if they do work as serviceable starters at their positions, that's a huge 2 big gaps in that defense that they've addressed. And then they go and get Nussmeier in the 7th round. The only big thing I would say is they didn't draft a single offensive lineman, which was in a draft where there was opportunity, even though there were runs there early. That was the only thing where I was like, wow, they're going to be real thin. They're going to have to do some work here in the trades or get some undrafted guys in there that can do it. But all in all, this is like a Mahomes, power ranking, so to speak. But I did like their defensive approach early.
I'm staying in the AFC, and I'm going to Jacksonville, to the Jaguars at number 9. I think they'll take a small step back, but I think that's mainly not because I think the Jags are going to be worse. I think the Jags were a team that the second half of the year last year, they became a really, really solid football team, and they started to hit their stride. And I think a lot of this for me is projecting that Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen year 2 are going to continue to grow that relationship. I like the weapons they have for Trevor. I like the game plan they have for Travis Hunter. It's like, dude, you're going to be a corner. We're gonna solidify our defense, and I would imagine there'll still be a package for him, and you will see him at times with the ball in his hand. But they need to solidify that, and I think he'll, at his core, he can be an elite level corner if he really commits to that versus a really good wide receiver. And they, with the trades they made at the end of the year last year, midway through the year, like it really solidified their wide receiver core. And listen, I think there's some interesting things. The Jags, I don't know if they got 100% better. They lost Travis Etienne, who was a huge part of that offense. He's been with Trevor Lawrence for a decade now, you know what I mean? All the way back to Clemson.
Yeah.
But I think this is me projecting. I still think they are the right now would be my pick to win the AFC South. But I think the AFC South is improved. It's a really good division. I think the Texans are very good, best defense in football. I think the Colts, with a healthy quarterback, they showed they were a really good team until the injuries fell off. And then I do think Titans are going to be better. Like they're going to have a better coach, better offensive coordinator, no longer a rookie quarterback, and they improve their weapons. So I think that's 9, but I think they're a really good 9. I just don't know if they're going to be a 13-win team. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yep. All right, give me number 8 for you.
I'm going to go to the NFC Norris division, and I'm going to Detroit. I'm going to have Detroit at number 8. I wanted to put Detroit higher, but I think 8 it feels right for where I project them to be the end of the year. I think Detroit's going to be a very good football team next year. I think Drew Petzing getting an outside voice from the offensive coordinator and not hiring one within. This is what they should have done last year. I think they wasted a year last year. I think if they would have made a move like this, where you get an offensive guy who's not from your system, but who has very successful offensive resume. Look what Drew Petzing did the second half of the year with Jacoby Brissett. That offense put up points in Arizona.
That's true.
With a good tight end, good stable of running backs, solid wide receiver core. The weapons, do you forget Detroit is loaded? Williams, St. Brown, Sam Laporta, obviously
Tesla,
Gibbs, Tesla. And they got, what's his name at the running back as well? They
got Pacheco to replace Montgomery.
Yes, so. Like this is a team. I know. Listen, the offensive line, they drafted a kid in the first round. You still have Penei Sewell. It's still a really above average offensive line, because any offensive line with Penei Sewell is above average offensive line. In my opinion, probably.
I really liked the Blake Miller pick.
Yeah, so I think it filled in. One of the top 2.
And they got the guard no, that was Jacksonville. Never mind.
Yeah,
I'm getting ahead of myself.
Listen, I could talk myself into Detroit being higher, but I think again, I'm trying to project out. I think the NFC North is another one of those divisions where 11 wins is going to win this division because you're going to have an 11-win team, a 10-win team, a 9-win team, and an 8-win team.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be
pretty battered.
It's going to be a bloodbath. So I like Detroit a lot. I think defensively, still a couple issues I'm concerned about, the division I'm concerned about, but I like Detroit a lot. It's maybe a low end 8. They're an 8 that I can see playing in the NFC title game.
Yeah. No, they're number 8 for me too. And for a lot of those same reasons. I also did like in the draft, they went pretty heavy in the middle rounds on defense, and they got 2 linebackers from Michigan, an edge and a middle linebacker to help address those aspects of the defense, because the defense did struggle without Aaron Glenn, and there were obviously injuries again to this unit. But I think them investing in offensive line to keep that steady, they didn't really need much else on offense, and round out defense a little bit more, I think was good and good depth. The Jaguars are number 7 for me. I don't see them taking as much of a step back. I kind of almost see them jumping on a moving train. I think they really found out who they were at the back half of last year. I think they got into a really good groove. I think Trevor now with Brian Thomas and Jacoby Myers, have that good rapport. Brenton Strange came along as a go-to tight end. And I think they really, with letting ETN go, I think they showed that they really like Bashal Tutin and wanted to give him more opportunities there after being a rookie who didn't get to see the field as much because it was pretty crowded. So I think this offense is going to be just fine. I think they're going to do, really well, much like they did last season. They got Pregnon or Pregnon, however you pronounce that, the really big standout guard early. I liked that pick a lot. They didn't have a first because they gave that up for Travis Hunter the year before, but they used their middle round picks on a lot more like high floor guys than high ceiling, but I like that. And then they took flyer receivers late, and you hope one guy sticks around as like a number 4. And I think that's the prudent way of going about business. I really like Jacksonville a lot. I agree that I think the Titans are going to be a little bit better, but I don't think Jacksonville's going away anytime soon. And now they get a full off season with the Liam Cohen system. Trevor Lawrence had a career year last year, and I think maybe now we're starting to see him hit the accelerator, and kind of continue to rise and not be the plateau in his career.
Yeah, we both like Jacksonville. I'm with you there. All right, my number 7. I'm staying in the AFC. As you'll see, my power rankings, it's very back end AFC, front end NFC. I think the NFC is the deeper, better conference right now. I have New England at 7. I was tempted to put them lower, and then I stopped myself and said, okay, don't overreact. I think New England's got a couple things that spell come back to earth, but I still think they could come back to earth and be a wild card team or even win that division. I'm gonna put them more in the wild card, like they're gonna be like that 5th seed. Listen, they had the easiest schedule of all time last year. Obviously now that's not the case. I like the talent upgrades. I think they are a better football team, but I also think, I'm not gonna lie, the coaching situation is a very volatile thing. I think the Vrabel situation, I loved. Did you see I think it was last week they had him out for it was some sort of season ticket holder event or something. They brought Vrabel out and he got a standing ovation. Of course the Patriots fans are going to back him. And I don't blame him. He's an all-time great Patriot player. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame Patriot, and he's a really, really good head coach. But I also think if this team starts 0-2, it's one of those, it's a looming thing. And I don't know how it's all going to end up getting resolved, right? There still could be a day. There could be a day next. It could happen when we finish this show. It could happen in 2 months from now, where all of a sudden it's just his wife's I'm done. I'm done. You know what I mean? Maybe she finds out one other piece of information. Another picture comes out. We had more pictures drop last week. There's more pictures. It's
we had playlists drop too.
And listen, we all know what is the one thing that, like, the generic coach speak is. Well, I'm the head coach of the football team, but my wife's the head coach of the household, right? Like, I just do what she
Yeah.
says, right? They always love to say that. They always give the wife credit for keeping the household, keeping the kids. I know he's got grown kids, and it's different, but it's like if your home life is that stressful, and if the players, you know what I mean, all it takes is one mouthy wide receiver who's not happy saying one thing in AJ Brown about Vrabel, talking to a sideline reporter. I just think it's volatile. It's volatile enough for me to
It's a
say
distraction. It's a big
yes.
distraction.
It's volatile enough for me to say a team that probably should be closer to like 5. I'm going to put at 7, but I wouldn't hate on you if you put them at like 11 or just off the list either. I think there's a lot of factors in it. They're not going to have the schedule luck they had, and it's a situation.
Yeah. No, it is. Number 6 for me, I have the Bills, and I just still have so many questions about Buffalo. I love the Bradley Chubb and DJ Moore signings. I think that addressed some big needs, and I think the DJ Moore signing made it a little bit more palatable that they didn't take a wide receiver early in this draft. Although I thought, man, this team kept trading back. They made 4 trade downs in this draft, and I think maybe ultimately that will come back to help. I think they were one of the few that did get some next year draft capital out of the deal,
and they got value. They had good picks. It was not flashy, but it was
picks.
Yes, the
4th round receiver Skyler Bell. Yeah. It was a guy that's like, oh yeah, I could see that guy actually, being a 4th round guy that pops, especially for a team like this. And now you have DJ Moore. Like it's a lot easier to kind of work with some lesser known prospects and names. And then they got that edge from Illinois, Jacobs. That was like their biggest need outside of wide receiver was to get an edge. So I thought them going and securing him early was pretty important. So I like that. Or no, I'm sorry, that was the Patriots that got Jacobs. My bad. But I ultimately think that much like the Chiefs, this was a Josh Allen power ranking, but now they've kind of stabilized some of those huge concerns that have been for a few years. They know they have a really talented wide receiver in DJ Moore. Now maybe he's on the back 9 of his career, yes, but still you would argue, I mean, he's the best receiver they've had since Stephon Diggs, right? I would say that's probably fair to say.
Yeah, and he had the relationship with Joe Brady. His great season in Carolina, right. Yes. It was Joe Brady. So it's a guy who, when you have a new head coach, and a head coach, and I look back at when we said during that, it's like, oh, it's not the best. You just hire your offensive coordinator, but to me, it helps. It really helps me feel more confident that whatever Joe Brady is going to want to do this first year is going to fit. Because he gets a guy that is going to help him make it work, and a guy he knows really well, and a guy who's motivated to just still prove that he's a top 10 wide receiver in the league.
Totally agreed.
So is it me? Am I at 6 now?
Yeah, you're at 6.
6. Okay. I have Denver at 6. I wanted to go Denver lower. I don't love everything they did this offseason. I do think what they have done really well, I'm going to give them credit, is that if you have a quarterback like Bo Nix, who I don't love, you've gone and said, we are all in on this year. The Waddle move is an all in on this year move. I think Denver lowers in my power rankings because I think that division is now tougher. I think the Chargers are very, very real. Kansas City is going to be very back, and I think the Raiders are going to be better. And so I don't think Denver is again going to be a 1 seed type of team. And I don't believe in Bo Nix. I just don't. I think Bo Nix is not gonna win regular season games, him and Sean Payton. But I just don't think there's another layer. I don't see him making the jump that I see Caleb and Drake May making continued jumps. I think.
But having said all that, they're the number 6
They're number 6 because they're
Best
really
team.
talented.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really
Yeah,
talented.
they are. Yeah,
Really
that
talented
defense is
roster.
ridiculous.
Really talented roster. I listen. They were the 1 seed in the AFC,
Yeah,
and I
and they
have them
got
at
Jalen
6.
Waddle.
And I have them at 6. So I feel like that's me saying I'm believing less in them.
No, that's true. I mean, now that you put it that way, it's going to look real bad because I don't have them in my top 10. That's
Well,
already rough.
and you know what? And listen, I don't blame you because you know me. I'm not a believer in the sense that I think he's a capable quarterback, but I think if you want to win Super Bowls, I don't want Bo Nix as my quarterback.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I just again, Sean Payton is a SOB. He's a frustrating guy, but he wins games, and this is a team that I don't see them all of a sudden missing the playoffs, right? Like I don't see Denver all of a sudden being an 8-win team unless there's catastrophic injuries. They're too deep, they're too talented, and they have Sean Payton. But I don't see Denver as like a true Super Bowl threat. I have no interest in picking Denver to be one of the 5 or 6 teams I would say can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
All right,
so you can start with 5. Yeah.
All right, so this is now here's where I think it's going to get fun. I have Kansas City at 5.
Okay.
I love Kansas City. So I have 3 AFC West teams in the top 10. Yeah. I think they're all really good teams. I think that sucks for the Raiders. Again, I don't think any of these teams, AFC West, Kansas City, Denver, or Chargers, are going to be 12 or 13 win teams. I think you're going to see the AFC West, the NFC North, I feel very strongly it's like 11, 12 wins is going to win it. And then the next team is going to be like a 10-win team and be in the wild card. And maybe you have 3 teams from each division in the playoffs. I think they're really, really, really good divisions. I think Kansas City, the best thing they did was they lost Matt Nagy. I'm telling you, ever since Matt Nagy's taken over from Eric Bieniemy and they brought Bieniemy back, yes, they won Super Bowls, but the offense has never looked the same. It never felt explosive. It never had the Tyreek Hill factor. Now, I get it. You bring Matt Nagy in and lose Tyreek Hill at the same time. But it never felt right. They went and they drafted guys, Xavier Worthy. They did all these things to try, like, let's be explosive again. Where's Patrick Mahomes? 50 touchdowns. All of that died when Matt Nagy came in. And it became way more bubble screen, way more, we're going to get 4 yards of play, and we're going to try to win games like that. I think this Chiefs defense is going to feel young and fast again. I like the additions they've made on defense. I think this offense is going to feel explosive again. And I think you're going to see for the first time since that Super Bowl blowout loss against Tampa at Tampa, a really motivated Patrick Mahomes to be like, I'm still the guy. And when listen,
it's a big year.
I said it when he got injured. Maybe the best thing for him in the sense of like, dude, you're at the middle of your career. You're year 10 right now, right? You got 3 Super Bowls. Your body's not in great shape. We kind of make fun of him that he's kind of a dad bod. All this dude has been doing is rehabbing now for 8 straight months. It's way easier to come back from an ACL as a quarterback than Micah Parsons.
All the great quarterbacks need that year off. You know, Tom had it. You know, the full season.
Peyton's injury, neck injury, and then he goes to Denver and it's 50 touchdowns, right? I think you're going to see an elite quarterback being an elite quarterback. I'm very high on Kansas City. I don't think Kansas City's a 13-win team, but I think they're an 11-win team, 12-win team that wins their division, or maybe barely. Maybe the Chargers or Broncos win the division. They make the playoffs, and I would feel very confident Kansas City's in an AFC title game. And battling, especially, I think they're going to get better as the year goes on as Patrick really settles back in and gets healthy. So I'm high in Kansas City.
5 is the Patriots for me, and I thought that was a little low too because obviously they are the representatives of the AFC in the Super Bowl. But I did like they went offense defense pretty much back and forth throughout the whole draft. Which if those were the guys that were on top of their boards. I like that they were filling holes on both sides of the ball and not letting one take over. I really like the first round pick, Lomu. That is insurance for if Will Campbell doesn't work out. And if Will Campbell does have this great comeback year and live up to his draft stock, now you have your bookends for years. And that's a great problem to have. I baked in that they're getting AJ Brown. If they don't, maybe this does change things a little bit, but I'm going to assume that they're getting AJ
I
Brown.
baked that in at 7 too. AJ Brown
Yeah.
is probably the number one wide receiver who's currently on a roster that's a little bit of a head case. I think you could say George Pickens probably gives him the run for that, right?
Yeah. Well, CD's the number one though there. So I mean, but George Pickens is number one talent. He's number one talent for sure.
Well, I would just say and it causes problems. Like, it's a little bit of a head case.
Yeah. So yeah, and then they got Jacobs from Illinois, which I really liked that pick for them because they didn't have any pass rush last year, and that's what really, that's where they really struggled.
Okay,
so
you're at number 4 now.
So at number 4 for me is the Chicago Bears.
Ooh, okay,
the Bears come in at number 4. Dude, I know that the Dahlman thing was a real stunner, and they've taken some hits. But I thought their draft was really solid. I like Thieneman a lot. I think he's going to be a great, better version of Brisker. They were able to address the Dahlman gap. Like, luckily that news came out and he made that decision. Jones, I think, is really, really good. They addressed a variety of needs. Like, they got a lot of different position groups filled there. And it's time to let the young wide receiver shine. They're going to let this loose now. They're not,
Erden and Adunze.
I don't know if they were, and I don't even know if you feel this way. I didn't watch every single Bears game as close as you. But now there's no pressure to like, oh well, we have to give DJ Moore X number.
Yeah, DJ
targets,
Moore. Yes.
Now,
Rome's dad is a problem on Twitter. Rome's dad is frustrating. Rome is not frustrating. Rome's dad is frustrating. But DJ Moore does. It has felt a little bit like, oh, you got to get DJ his touches, and in Ben Johnson's offense, it feels like the ball is going where the ball is going. Like, it's just. Yeah.
So now they can let it loose. Rome and Luther can do their thing, and they took a wide receiver late, I believe. In this
the fourth round kid from LSU who ran the fastest 40 or the second fastest 40 in the draft.
Oh, yeah.
But what I like about him a lot is again, it's the first time that I'm getting a guy like that with an offensive coach, because the Bears have had guys like that. Not that elite speed.
Yeah,
probably Devin Hester.
Yeah,
but it's kind of like, oh yeah, just go deep. It's like, I have a feeling, and this kid can really catch.
Kevin White.
Yeah, I have a feeling this will be he'll be one of those guys who are just like, oh, he's gonna make a play every other game where you're just like, holy crap.
Yeah. I kind of hope the Steelers use their last pick from Navy, Eli Heidenreich.
I like that kid.
I hope he makes the roster, and I hope they're able to like find a way that they can use him kind of like a Tariq Cohen,
Oh, wow.
Like, I could see him, fulfilling that role. So I think that'd be really cool. But,
all right, so it's
Bears number 4. Are they in your top 4?
We'll see. I'm at number 4. So I'm going 4 and 3. 4 is the Bills. I love me the Bills right now. They're my highest AFC team. At number 4 is the Bills. And I will say this, I kind of defended him earlier. I think the DJ Moore move for them makes so much sense. I also think the Chubb move makes so much sense. This team, I don't know what the Bills are going to look like 3 years from now. I don't know if Joe Brady, I don't know what his but I think 1 year, like if I'm looking in a tunnel, the continuity of having now your offensive coordinator who Josh Allen won an MVP with is now the head coach, and their relationship can just completely be like there's no other worries about decision makers. And let's be honest, I think the Bills, it just was a time for some sort of little bit of shakeup, and I think it's going to be one of those teams, one of those where they absolutely should be in the running for an AFC title game. I like Buffalo a lot. I'm at number 3. The defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. I lowered them in my ranking because I think losing Kubiak is one of those where I'm like, I don't know how that impacts this offense. That offense was so dynamic and fun, and Darnold was so good in that offense. And now I don't know what the brain trust will be, right? I just, you lose Kubiak, you lose Walker, you lose Kobe Bryant. They had some big losses. And I think that, listen, it's hard to repeat. And so I'm just going to go that they're not as good as they were last year, but they'll still be a really good football team. But I'm going to, that's where kind of like I'm just projecting out. They're not going to be a repeat Super Bowl champion. I'm not picking Seattle Seahawks to win the Super Bowl this year. I think they'll be really, really good. I think you're going to see them beat up. Like when they play bad teams, they're still going to put a hurt on them. But it wouldn't shock me if Darnold struggles maybe a little bit more against some of the better defenses, and that schedule is really tough because he's learning a whole new offense for the fourth straight year, whatever it might be. Listen, they have a ton of weapons. Jackson Smith-Njigba is a stud. I have him 3. I'm not hating on him. I'm just spicing up a little bit.
I have the Rams at 3. There wasn't much this offseason that, get you excited. I didn't think their draft was particularly great, and the Ty Simpson pick, again, was going to dominate discussions for a long time. But I think it also kind of reflects that how confident they are in their roster. I think they totally believe that they have a championship caliber roster to run it back again. And I kind of agree. I mean, this is a really good roster. Devontae Adams is not, some retread now. He is still a highly regarded wide receiver that can make big plays. And Puka, of course, is the clear number 1. We'll see if he can, keep it together for a full season. But the run game, like everything about this group, they didn't lose their staff that they were projected to lose in the offseason cycle. And so that's kind of exciting too, that they get to keep that crew together.
It's huge.
And, overall, I just think that it was a really young, vibrant offense to begin with. And, they added some more tight end help to that room and kind of just did a little bit of patchwork in the draft.
McDuffie, dude, you get him.
Yeah.
From the Chiefs. I'm with you. And I think you underselling the continuity thing is huge. I mean, the Rams have had a purge of brain trust every year for the past 10 years. It feels like since Sean McVay's been there, and this year they don't have to do that. I think that's huge. Who do you have in 2?
Am I going number 2 or you going number 2?
You're number 2.
I'm number 2. Number 2 is Philly for me. All the turmoil in Philly. I think once again they crushed the draft, and Howie Roseman's incredible. I know that they're going to trade AJ Brown eventually. I think the Mekhi Lemon pick is going to be pretty good for them. I think he fits that offense really well. They traded for Dontavian Wicks and Jonathan Grenard in the offseason, in the free agency as well, which I thought their defense got better already. And Wicks is a really solid number 3 wide receiver. So now they have their top 3 without AJ Brown. We'll see what they get in return for him. I loved the pick of Cole Payton in the 4th. I was high on him, coming in. He was one of my top quarterbacks to begin with. So I think that's a really good project fail-safe option for them if this Jalen Hurts situation gets out of hand. Tanner McKee is already that number 2 quarterback that a lot of teams called on about. So I think they feel confident that they can win games with him if Jalen, doesn't work out. So I think there's going to be a shorter leash for Jalen Hurts than people may realize. And I think that gives them a little bit more freedom to do with this offense what they didn't last year. And then they got a lot of O-line and tight end help throughout the draft. So yeah, I think Philly's going to have storm back a little bit this year because that roster's just too damn good. And I don't see them, falling off once again.
I do not have the Eagles in my top 10. And I will just say this. I agree with everything you said. I just thought to myself, there has to be a team that right now I'm just unsure of. And I look at the NFC East as I just don't know. I'm Sirianni, another offensive coordinator change. It's the story that came out with them trying to throw Jalen Hurts under the bus. It all just feels really unwell. Yeah. And I thought to myself, if I'm just going off of rosters, yeah, they're obviously in the top 10. But I was trying to think of like, okay, if I'm projecting this out, I don't have any NFC East team in the top 10. I just don't know yet. I was like, I'm just going to put it on pause. I'm like, I don't know. And that's where I went with like including a team like, you know, Kansas City higher, I have New England there. You don't like it's,
they're the one team in agreement with you that I think has the largest variance of outcome this year.
The ceiling, yeah. If you told me they win 13 games, I'm like, yeah, their talent is insane.
Yeah.
And they, what
and
I mean?
If they won 7, I wouldn't be shocked either.
No, I'd be like, they absolutely could implode. Yeah. So I don't have.
I'm just going to bank on the latter or the former, but
yeah,
it's fun. I see what you're saying.
That's fun. So I have the Bears number 2. And listen, you're going to say this is Homer. You had him at 4. Listen, I don't think there's any reason for me not to feel strongly that my team can compete for a championship this year. I understand right now that I don't have an elite pass rushing unit, but I probably have the best back end when you consider safeties and corners, all healthy, all playing the potential. 1 or 2 best back ends in the NFL. I also have a linebacker core that I think is better than last year's when you include Devin Bush, Sam Warren's back healthy, TJ Edwards. It's a really, really, really dynamic, good unit. And then defensively on the defensive line, yes, Montez Sweat is overpaid, but he's a quality player. Dexter's a really quality player. You still have Grady Jarrett. You have guys, there's bodies there. It's not like it's not like it's a barren unit. We're not talking about a unit that is absolutely void of it. Yeah, there's no elite, there's no Myles Garrett, but there's only 5 or 6 of those guys in the league anyways, and everyone else has to find and generate a pass rush in other ways. And Dennis Allen's really good at generating a pass rush in other ways. And I think if this back end holds up and is healthy, which, again, they were so unhealthy last year, I'm banking on like, okay, you're going to get health up there, especially with new pieces. Kobe Bryant, Thieneman, your 2 new safeties, absolute studs, it looks like. Jalen Johnson being back now 100%, as an elite corner, hopefully coming back for a really bounce back big year. Kyler Gordon there at the nickel spot. Like, this is a really good, solid defense. And then you look offensively. The only concern is left tackle. And it's not like the left tackle is you have no one. You have guys, right? There's people who can play that position. And then you hope that the kid who's the rookie last year who got injured at some point in time can return. And then when you need your left tackle the most, when the weather's bad and it's getting to the later in part of the year, he's back, he's healthy, and he's entering in the rotation, and you've sufficed at that point in time. I also wouldn't be shocked if the Bears, what's his name from the Lions, is still out there as a left tackle option, who they cut. Like, it wouldn't shock me if they
was that Decker.
Yeah. Who they find another person to add to that rotation if they don't like what they're seeing early in camp, right? And the same with Cam Jordan. It wouldn't shock me if that by the second week of the preseason, the Bears have brought in Cam Jordan and said, you know what, screw it, we can afford this roster spot and give you $10 million for 1 year, and all of a sudden the only weaknesses where you're like a 10+ sack guy who's not there, but you have a lot of bodies, you could fill those only 2 weaknesses. And I don't even see them as like giant glaring holes. They're weaknesses, but they're not giant glaring holes. You have the rest of the offensive line is very, very good. You have an elite tight end group that are all 3 very different. You have Cole Kmet as your traditional tight end, you think, from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, big, strong, fast. And then you have the modern tight end in Loveland, who's more like a wide receiver. And then you get this kid Roush from Stanford, who's like a throwback 1940s, big, strong, giant, Darnell Washington type tight end. You have a wide receiver group that is doesn't have a true number 1, but they have a ton of depth and a bunch of ceiling. The ceiling is so high for all those guys. And we've seen them all play really, really well at times. And then you have a quarterback who, by all means, is poised to elevate himself, in my opinion, by the end of the year to be the number 2 quarterback in the NFC behind Stafford and a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, a guy that you're looking at day in, day out. And when he's on your schedule, you're going, Like
Yeah.
we got to deal with Caleb Williams. And we saw it in flashes last year. We saw it a lot at the end of the year with those incredible throws, an incredible game was against the Packers. Good teams. He wasn't doing it against just the trash. Yeah, he had big moments against the Bengals and all those fun things. But what he did late in the year against some really good teams in Ben Johnson year 2, I absolutely think the Bears competing for a Super Bowl. And number 1 is the Rams. I don't need to go into it. I think the Rams. I've been beating the Rams drum for years. I've always felt as long as they're this iteration of the Rams, the team that won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, they just feel like I don't know if they have any even weaknesses on the roster.
Yeah. No,
and
they've been close
I would
every
argue
year.
if they made a pick at 13, look at some of the names they could have had. It would have been a no-brainer number 1 for the Rams. I think the only weakness is you maybe created a little bit of a controversy. But again, how many times over the last couple off seasons have we talked about, well, if Matt Stafford is elbows and a back? I think they looked at the Ty Simpson and said, we are not going to worry about having to start Jimmy Garoppolo. We're done with that. If he can't go, we have someone who we at least feel like we're going to give a chance to have a new franchise quarterback. So I think the Rams are the number 1. Who do you have at 1? Seattle?
I have Seattle at number 1, and maybe it's a lame pick because they just won the Super Bowl, and you stick with the reigning champ. But they didn't really lose that much. I know they lost the Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker, and I do think he's a phenomenal player. But I think it's a position that they still had a lot of strengths at, and then they go and get Price in the first round, who I think is really, really good. So they got Charbonnet and him. So I don't think there's going to be a huge drop off there for them. And then I really liked the safety Bud Clark that they got, and they got a shit ton of cornerbacks. They got like 4 corners. One of those I'm banking on panning out, especially with Mike McDonald. So I think they addressed some real like glaring areas of need. And I do think the Kubiak loss is huge, but I really liked who they replaced him with a Shanahan tree guy who's been there for many years.
Yeah, Darnold should feel comfortable.
So yeah, I think he's going to be set up for success, and runs a pretty similar system all around, both a part of that same tree. So yeah, that's the reasoning there for Seattle.
You're probably right. They probably deserve to be number 1 to start the season. I think for me, it's so hard to go back to back, and it just feels like the NFL right now there's a lot of movement, right? It's hard to stay at the top unless you're a team like it feels like Kansas City or maybe even the Eagles. Eagles, credit to them, have been very, very good and won a Super Bowl and been to a Super Bowl. Neither of us have the Niners. I think that is interesting.
Packers.
No Packers. The Packers, my just missing were Texans, Steelers, Eagles, Niners, Packers. All of that group you could convince me is 11. Right. Or you could convince me that's my like the next group for me.
Houston.
No, Texans, Steelers.
Oh, okay.
Texans, Steelers, Eagles, Niners, Packers. Like,
yeah.
I feel very similar about all of them. I'm not going to fight over ranking one above the other. I think they all have some real questions or holes.
I had the Ravens in that group.
I don't. I have the Ravens like just in that next tier. Something gives me off vibes about the Ravens, man. I don't know.
Oh, I think it's gonna be. Yeah, I think they're gonna have.
I think losing Harbaugh
gonna be a little weird.
Harbaugh,
but they've got a defensive specialist there. Like I think that'll turn their defense around a little bit, and maybe help because that's been an area of struggle.
I think Lamar Jackson. I'd be very interested. I don't know if Lamar Jackson is going to be. I think Harbaugh made life. I think it's a little bit of that, what was they really dealing with? What was it? And was Harbaugh able to kind of keep things and keep the ship calm? You have a lot of money invested in him, and it's and you bring in a defensive coach. I'm a little less high in the Ravens.
That's fair. Well, that was fun. We'll have to look back on this and see how we did. But yeah, a lot more to come this offseason. Now we are in the real true dead off season of the NFL.
We are. It's
But
dead.
we will get the schedule release coming up pretty soon. So in a couple
Yes.
weeks, right? And so
That's
there's
huge.
that to look forward to. But yeah, appreciate everyone listening as always. And we'll see you back here next week on the Football Lounge with Mark and Dan.